Hello, Lori here. Today I am going to show you how I convert, my method for converting. And keep in mind that there are many different variations and ways to convert exactly, but I'm just going to run through my method and then a few other differences that you might see. First of all, I have a project that in this case I've called it Converting Miscellaneous New, and I am in Artisan 4. I do have two other projects open. I'm going to just show you what those look like in just a moment. But I do make a project for each designer, and then I have this miscellaneous one. And this one is if I have found a template online that doesn't offer .page files, and I'll just bring it in for myself and convert over here. Now this blank page, before I start, I want to show you what I've got going on with it. I have no background. That's why you can see all these little gray dots. There's no background in there. I have a live text box, which is where I will copy and paste the name. And when I am converting for myself on templates that I have found or purchased, I just put in the name exactly as the designer did it. When I'm converting for designers, you're going to see something a little bit different there. Down to the lower right, and I tend to like it in the lower right. Some people put it in another place. Some converters don't put one at all, and when they don't, it's really difficult for me because I rely on this preview. But this is where I slide the preview. And you're going to see that you can slide a JPEG over here as a preview or a .tiff file if that's what you have. So you're going to see how I do this. Before I begin, I take this blank project page that I have and I right mouse and I duplicate. So I will always have this fresh, clean one sitting here, and now I will have the one that I'm working with. Now, at this point, what I am going to show you, I'm going to just pull over and show you, we're going to do a nice clean template. It's actually this one right above, so that you don't have to wait too long for all of these things to come over. So this is sitting off the screen that you see over to the left, but I'm going to leave it here. I'll pull it back over because I still want to show you two other things before we begin. For different designers that I convert for, and you can see that I have kind of a big set of pages here, and when it gets too full, I do make a new one and start over again. But you can see that my first page has just the shortcut, the initials for that designer, and then all of my other pages have whatever standardly goes into their text box. So for Two Tiny Turtles, I use her name and then the exact name of the template. So if I were crediting this later on, using it myself, I can just backspace through the initials, and now I've got the exact name of the template right there. And also there are certain instructions. Now certain designers have talked with us as converters, or we have talked to them and explained about certain wording at the side, and so we'll put it in there standardly. But this isn't the case for every designer. I find when I am crediting using the template and crediting later, it is just so easy for me to delete this, and then I can start pasting in all of the information from the kits that I use. So it's just really, really quick and easy. And down here you can see the preview. Now in this case, notice that when I click on it, it doesn't do anything, and that's because it is locked. The preview is the only thing that is locked, and the reason is because it's actually live. You don't want to pull a paper or a photo onto the page and by mistake drop it there and replace that. So it's the one and only thing on this particular designer's page that is locked. Now if I go over to Fiddle-Dee-Dee, with Fiddle-Dee-Dee we also include a logo to her store, or a logo for her as a designer, excuse me. So you'll see that there's the name. For her, we don't include the lowercase FDD at the beginning, and that's fine. Actually, the same instructions for her, and then this is locked and the preview is locked. Now, as another note, The only things live on both of these designers' templates are the photos themselves. And we've generally gone to that over the last year or so converting, because most designers that I have spoken to actually don't want their text boxes live. They say that this is just a suggestion and there's no need, and to try to find the right font and deal with that is too much trouble. They don't want us taking all that time. So both titles and text boxes will generally not be live anymore. And also, while a few designers still have converters that make everything live, generally speaking, we don't. And that's for two reasons. One is that it just takes so long and we would burn converters out if everybody had to make everything live. It doesn't make any sense to do that. And second of all, with Artisan 5 now in particular, it is so easy to use these things that aren't live to fill them and make the paper be any size we want it to. It's really not necessary. So while it is an extra slight step for Artisan 4 users to get the paper the size that they want, to zoom it up or not, it's so easy in Artisan 5, it just doesn't make any sense to do that. So that's general. There are some other ways, some other converters that hold on to the way that they've been doing it. Some designers that have slightly different preferences, but that's pretty routine for what you're seeing. So now when I go over here to this page I'm going to convert, I'll pull back over this folder so that you can see it. And I just want to go up and out and show you something. For this link, I'm going to post the link. For this link, she doesn't include pings. So I ripped the pings so that you'll be able to use those. There is a TIFF in here. I'm going to grab that TIFF and slide it over into that live photo spot. And you can see that the TIFF goes there perfectly well. Now, when I'm designing for real, what I do is I pull that TIFF or JPEG over. I copy the name of the file itself. I come over and paste the name of the file in there, and then I come up here and I lock only the preview. Okay, so that's my first step that I do. Now let me get that folder back up. Then I open up my pings and I make sure in the correct order. Now the correct order is the background, so this white piece of paper needs to be up here, needs to be first. And there are two ways to do that. The way I do that currently is I go to View, Current View, Sort By, and I go Descending. And that flips it. Now I am going to just highlight, using my Shift key, highlight all of those layers. And here's the important part. Start with the background and drag and drop it over. If you don't start with the background and you start somewhere else, it won't go in the correct order, and then you'll have to start moving them yourselves. From here, I click Home, Align, Center on Page. That's going to bring everything over and center it up, and you can see that there's all this white space, these extra pixels around each thing. I've seen with some designers, when they give you pings, those pings fill the space. They don't have those white areas, and you cannot convert with that. They have to have all of that space around there so that everything aligns correctly and goes into the right spot. After this, with everything still selected, I go to Cut and Fill, Straight Edge, and then I just grab from that yellow arrow, double arrow, and I drag it off the page, all the way off the page. Don't leave it on that background at all. It defaults, Artisan 4 defaults to keep the unselected section, and I say cut, because all of this is selected, and this with the gray dots is unselected, and now it's going to cut it all apart. So we'll give that just a minute to work, and the reason I picked a template with so few pieces is that it was quick. It was much quicker than when you have 70 or 80 layers, and some designers do have that many layers. One of the reasons I picked this template is there's something that you might see with some designers if I grab this, you can see that they've got all of these words attached together. I'll go ahead and undo and put it back where it was. For this designer, if I were converting for her, I would leave this because it is so easy for the user when they are scrapping with it to just delete out that whole section. But they have it there to work with until they're ready to delete it. So that is what I would do if I were converting for, I believe that's Kate Hadfield. So I would leave it right there. I wouldn't cut things apart. I would not touch it. Now this is meant to be your photo. These are all papers. I would not make those live. For the majority of designers today, we would not make those live. This is the only thing that we would make live. Now for most designers, when they've got all of these different photo spots, we'll go up and change the color of that. And you can see here's my color picker. And I have a bright red and a bright purple that are on there right close so that I can just grab them, and I pick whichever one I feel like. I usually will make that whole thing that funny color because when you're converting sets of templates, there's usually 4 templates to a set, and I won't start doing my live photo spots until I have all of my pings over and aligned and cut. So then I'll just make the photo spots purple, and I can easily find what's supposed to be a photo spot from it being purple when I go back and look at it. In this case, you can see that the designer has a mat, a white mat around the photo. So now when I come back and I'm ready to add the photo, I will, first of all, insert empty frame. There's my empty frame, but it doesn't have a mat around it. So I will go to Format Photos, a couple of different ways to do this. I go to Select Mat, and I'm going to pick this mat right here, that thinner mat. Now, from her preview, I can see that it probably needs to be something more like that, just a little bit bigger of a mat. So I eyeball that. And from here, with that photo selected, I use my Control key. I'm going to grab that purple photo spot. I'll hit Arrange, and I'm going to hit 3 buttons in here, always this one first, so that it makes it the same size. And then I am going to align this icon, the second one in, and the 5th one in, horizontally and vertically. And then I always go, especially on complex templates, to group. Once you group, it's going to put it in the same place over on this left-hand side, so that if there were a whole bunch of elements above it, it's going to group them together. And then I'm going to hit Ungroup. Now if I were to have, say, 3 or 4 or however many photo spots, I'm just going to go through and group them. And then once I'm done, I'll ungroup all of them at the same time. And I'm always going to remember to go back and get that purple one. See how easy it is to see that it's not the same color as anything else? I can get it right over here, so I could get 5 or however many at the same time, and I'm going to delete. This is done. I'm not adding any shadows. And the reason why some of the designers, we have this notice on here, you can see the preview has shadows. If this has shadows, if we were to put shadows on here, and if someone were to flatten the area with the shadow on it, and then were to try to fill it, that shadow is now part of the element and the edge will get fuzzy. So we want to make sure that that doesn't happen, and one way to help that is to make sure we don't have shadows. Now, some designers have very, very specific shadows, maybe kind of interesting shadows that go a certain way. Those designers we might, as a converter, leave the shadows on. And in that case, there are times when we might have specific instructions on that. There are also different instructions if there are masks or if there are rounded corners, but this is for basic, typical converting. So I'm going to stop right there. Once this is done, I will take that name, whatever that actual name is, and I'm going to copy it. I will come up to File, Save As, and export current page. That's the one you want to use, because down in this Save As type, you need to switch over to .page file. And .page is the only one that you need to save. Some converters save as all three types, .artpage and .sbpage, but that's not necessary. .page is the universal, just save it as that. From here, you're going to find the folder where you're going to save that. And I'm going to, in this case, just put it right back in where I've got the pings and the other pieces. A lot of designers will work with Dropbox with you, and that will be in a later tutorial. I will paste in that name, and if there is a 1, 2, 3, 4 templates in a set, then of course I just need to change that each time. I'll hit save and I'm done. That's converted, and now with whatever method my designer wants to go ahead and get those templates, I will deliver those templates to them. That's the way I convert. Again, there are different ways to do it. We'll go through more details in other tutorials, but I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.